Unbelievable. That we are live. Welcome to episode.
Perfect time to start. Yeah. Do the ad read.
Yeah. Episode 226 of Together BHA. Happy international break, fellas. How was your week off?
Yeah, good. Yeah, not too much. I was just moaning to Adam about the amount that's been going on personally, but just a wedding season, isn't it? So there's just a lot to go to. But what about you, Adam? You good?
Yeah, I didn't watch a minute of England football, and I'm glad about that. I should just try to avoid it like the plague.
Even with Donkey playing.
Well, I credit that, and I heard it was incredible that everyone was saying it was an amazing performance, but I refused to watch that bloody fraud manager plays idiot players. With all due respect to the rest of the team that are worth their spots there, I can't stand him. But outside of that, it's been a great 24 hours. I tell you that.
Yeah, there's been worse, hasn't there? It's hopefully by the end of next Sunday, we'll be talking about one of the best 7-day periods in Brighton history, really. Dicking United at Old Trafford, our first home game in the Europa League, our first game in the Europa League against Athens, who have sold out their away allocation quickly, by the way. So that's fun. And then obviously a home game against Bournemouth on the Sunday as well. Lots of fun stuff.
You were at Old Trafford yesterday.
I was 11-hour round trip. I'm very tired.
Worth it though.
Yeah, and to be clear, like that's just from the Midlands. Like fair play to all of those people coming from Brighton doing the actual trip all the way up there.
Think of the trip the poor Man U fans had to take.
The same place.
They had the longer commute. Yeah.
Plymouth, Wales.
Yeah, all over. Just not Manchester.
We are missing Robinho today. He is at a birthday party. Lucky him. Talking about wedding season, Craig, you're not wrong. There's a bunch of them going on, events these days. Yesterday, what a fantastic day out. But what a scary starting 11, though, right? Like, I don't know about you guys, but I was on the tram to Old Trafford when it came out, and the amount of United fans that looking in there, they were just like, this team is dog shit. Like, we'll batter them. Like, we're going to batter them. And I can't say I fully disagreed with them. Welbeck in, Lallana in. Adingra gets his first start. Dahoud back in the squad. Lamptey at left back. Steele back in for Verbruggen, which isn't a huge newsworthy thing these days. Unlike most teams, this is a pretty clear number one spot that's going to be swapped at will. What were your thoughts on the other changes in that lineup going to Old Trafford, where they had not lost a single game in the Premier League since losing to us last year in August? When you looked at that lineup with your Welbecks, your Lallanas, your Dahoods, your Adingras, what were your first thoughts upon seeing that 11?
I think any lineup without Estepinian now just immediately lowers my confidence level. So I think he's just important, but we'll come on to that. It was strange. Sort of 6 changes. I know no March, no Purvis. I fully expected Gilmore to start as well, given the form that he's been as well, and Ferguson on the bench. It didn't fill me with any sort of rabid confidence, shall we say? But yeah, I'm glad to be mistaken.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think now though, I can confidently say that De Zerbi could put out any team that he wants, and I think now you just have to buy into it. You just have to be like, okay, it doesn't matter. Maybe, but except Adam Webster. But it's just ridiculous what he can put out there in terms of quality. How many tweets have you guys seen now? I swear, over the last 24 hours, this number has changed. Every time I read a new version of this tweet about how much our starting 11 cost in transfer fee, I feel like it's gone down every time I see it. It's now like someone paid us to have those players. But what was it, like something around 16 million quid, 15 million quid or something like that, our starting 11 cost. Just silly. Like, it was like he made it so that Man United had every opportunity to beat us. And then, well, the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, It was worrisome, that starting 11. I was concerned. No Estepinian, or not even on the bench, of course, right? Like the international break. Apparently, he came back very tired. Seems to be a running theme for the Ecuador players, because Caicedo didn't even make the bench today either, for similar reasons. So I don't know what they were doing over in Ecuador, running these poor kids into the ground, but like none of them came back in any position to play football, which is something that is going to persist at least for this first half of the season, right? The international breaks don't stop, along with Europa League games and Premier League games and Carabao Cup games, if and when we win our first one against Chelsea. Yeah, it was a worrying starting 11. But like you said, like that Wolves game last season, I think we were all just assuming it was just an immediate forfeit, basically, of an 11, and we put 6 past them. And we added another 3 to the repertoire yesterday. But for that first 15 minutes, De Zerbi said outright that United did not play as the team expected them to play. And we know what he means by that, because they formulated themselves in a diamond formation in the midfield, and a very narrow one at that, and really clogged up that central midfield. Rashford operating on the left, but also as a striker. Højlund, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but the new striker that they've signed, getting his first start. Højlund, yeah, I just want to say Haaland, like,
just call him Rasmus, easier, isn't it?
Rasmus up front with Rashford. And for that first 15 minutes, all right, you guys, but like in the stadium, like the atmosphere was immense, by the way. But they were all over us. Like they had 4 shots, all of them with decent ones as well. They were all over us. They were just pressing really high, causing us all sorts of problems. Our play in the middle of the park wasn't what we expected to be able to do. And I don't know about you, but like watching it on the TV, but like, was it as bad as it felt in the stadium?
Yeah, pretty much.
We do. How often do we do this though? How long have we been saying the first 10 minutes of every game? I feel like it's just batten down the hatches and let's hope we don't concede, because they were on one. They were absolutely, and thankfully though, Man United seemingly only are able to try for about 10 to 15 minutes of a football game. But it was, and that's the only like worry I think you have. Well, it's not the only worry. There's 2 worries that you have with this team, which is the West Ham setup, where you just get caught on the counter and they sit incredibly deep, or you face a team that is able to keep up that manic press and is able to score a goal in the first 10, 15 minutes to change the whole outcome of the game, because then you are able to play the proper version of De Zerbi ball, where you can just frustrate and then create those openings. Thankfully, though, Marcus Rashford can't hit the ball on target.
I mean, it really does boil down to that, doesn't it? Because he had everything except for the final ball, whether it was a shot or a pass. And when he finally did, it was out of touch anyway. But he was absolutely electric yesterday. He torched us constantly and did nothing with it. It was really quite sad to see from an England fan perspective, wasn't it? Because he was really effective until it came down to the really important bit, which is the kind of like production you see from, no disrespect to them, but like Everton players, not Manchester United players, right? Like we got away with it a little bit that he was so poor yesterday.
He was lazy, really. I think
defensively.
Yeah, I mean, first 15 minutes, we'll stick to that. I think, they're completely all over us. Like, it wasn't nice watching on the TV or in person. But as soon as we were able to sort of, I guess, weather the storm and just get the ball and dictate a little bit more, like that's when it started to click and everything started to work. There's a lot in the press at the moment around how we change things on 15 minutes as well, and I'm sure we'll talk about that at length as well. But just using wide, if you are going to go with a narrow diamond, then fine, we'll go wide and we'll work it that way. And once we got comfortable doing that, and once those changes worked, it completely swung in our favor and didn't even look back.
Yeah, it was like a switch was flipped, wasn't it? On the sort of 15 or so minutes. And I remember I had my neighbours round yesterday who were Man United fans, which was funny. But I was like, in the first few minutes, I was like, wait until we get about 15 minutes in. And I guarantee suddenly we'll start bringing the ball under control and start passing it around. And it happened. But it feels like that's standard a weekend with Brighton nowadays, isn't it? Like just this the same process every 15 minutes at the start of a game.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Stephen in the chat, who do you guys think is a better poker player, Bloom or De Zerbi? I don't know about you, but like that's a charity match I'd love to watch. Watch those two playing poker, wouldn't you? That'd be mental.
Yeah, that's a charity thing, right?
De Zerbi just flipped the table, and he.
Yeah, one wrong hand, and he's just losing his mind. And he's also asking where he sends the razor blades for my charity. Now, it really says volumes about my self-care when I don't know whether you mean my face or my head, because I haven't had a haircut in like 8 weeks, and I do need a shave as well. So, like, thank you for pointing that out, Stephen. My mental health.
We'll link the Patreon.
yeah, we'll link the just giving, like whatever, GoFundMe. Yeah, it was on 15 minutes, as you say. The difference was really stark. Like at Old Trafford, we're in the corner, and it went from being like the way they were standardly formation, like to Dunk almost being underneath us. They were so wide and so available out wide, and the amount of medium long balls that Steele was pinging out to the fullbacks, pretty much on target every single time as well. I mean, there's a reason why him and Verbruggen are both so easily interchangeable, isn't it? Because Steele was fantastic yesterday. Even when things weren't going our way in that first 15 minutes, he didn't really put a foot wrong. When you compare what it probably would have been like if a certain Sanchez was in goal yesterday, we'd probably have been 3 down on 15 minutes just from the amount of giveaways and crazy balls he would have been giving away. Crazy transformation from Jason Steele, isn't it? Like, I know we talk about it all the time, but one of his statements yesterday was impressive, really. Like, and one you would hope to see from a mature goalkeeper. They were talking to him and kind of, I suspect, trying to get a bit of a soundbite out of him in regards to being rotated with Verbruggen after last year. And he outright said that he changed, like, Steele on to Zerbi. He changed my life last season. There's no doubt about that. By having trust and faith in me. So whatever he wants from me, I'll give him, no problem. Doesn't get much better than that, does it?
It's incredible, isn't it? You're talking about a goalkeeper that had an entire episode dedicated to him on Sunderland Till I Die, about just how wrong that club was going at that point. And I think, the transformation is amazing, right? And it's testament to both of the goalkeepers that we don't. I'm speaking for myself. I don't really care if it's Verbruggen or Steele. I feel fully comfortable with them both. And I know we spoke about this before, but that just shows you the level that they're both playing at, or the level that we expect, or the floor that they have, is that you feel entirely comfortable. Even in those first 15 minutes, I was like, Steele's not going to make a mistake. And that level is so high compared to the team that they're playing. It's incredible.
It's funny that on the other end of the pitch, there's a Ballon d'Or nominee in Andre Onana, and he's crap.
He is crap.
Because if you were going to say someone was a Ballon d'Or winner, it would be Jason Steele, then our soft keeper in Verbruggen, and then Onana would be maybe round out the top 3.
De Gea, probably third.
Free agent De Gea. Yeah, I would take either of our keepers either way, but I think it goes back to the kind of a discussion we probably had about how De Zerbi raises the game with all these players, and it's a group of players that are playing for the manager and are playing for the club. They seem to be proud to be playing for this team. I also love De Zerbi's comments after the game yesterday, where he's like proud to be manager of Brighton. It's a privilege to be manager of this club. Speaks volumes. And the other side of the pitch, you've got a group of players that are proud to collect their paychecks. And that was the difference between the two teams yesterday, in my opinion. Obviously, quality-wise, in quotation marks, the Man United 11 was far superior to what we put out there. And then the discipline, the hard work, the closing down outside of the first 10 minutes, and then the ability for the players to actually convert and work a little bit extra was the difference between frankly, should have really been a 4-0 win. But a tidy, comfortable win.
Yeah, it's mental, really. And when you say that, like it almost goes down the club, like from before times, right? Like I don't know if you saw Tony Bloom's interview on Thursday or Friday. Anybody who hasn't, who's listening in, I recommend you go watch it. It's like a 10-minute interview with I think it's Johnny Cantor. But Bloom interviews are hard enough to come by. We know this. Like he's not comfortable talking to the press very often. But he was very vocal in the fact that De Zerbi hasn't just changed the way we play. He challenges Bloom in ways he never even thought possible. And this is a owner that's widely regarded as a genius, by the way, by the greater media and the 32,000 going to the Amex every week and the millions of people watching Brighton in Japan, America, everywhere else, right? Like everybody widely assumes that Bloom is pretty much the best owner in football. And if any club, every club would want their own Tony Bloom. Mm-hmm. And he being surprised constantly by the way that De Zerbi is demanding more of him, the team, the culture, the city, everything. And I think that's like the difference that you don't even think about when it comes to your Potters and your Hutons. And like, that's no disrespect to Houghton. He got us here, right? Like it was an incredible promotion season, everything. And the foundation that Potter and Bloom built together is why we're able to do what we're doing today. No matter how much of a prick he is now, right? Like it's still the truth. And yet I saw someone refer to Potter online as the grey man this morning compared to Zerbi. And like, I just thought it was just so perfect. Like it really was like the only flash of real personality you ever saw of Graham Potter as a Brighton & Hove Albion manager was him telling us we needed a fucking history lesson. Like him lashing out at his own fans.
Well, like he did say he did shout seagulls in the parking lot once. Don't forget that.
Right. Got it. Okay.
Top 2 moments.
Out of 2. Like, and like, that's it. Like it, and there's a culture that De Zerbi and his team have instilled that just seems to be meshing with the club at the right time, where you're seeing this genuinely like, and I hate saying it as fans of it because you don't want it to like ruin and curse it by saying it, but like this special, like once in a lifetime, right place, right time combination that's seemingly starting to formulate here. And we're just really lucky to have him. I think we like it's crazy.
I saw a funny YouTube comment while I was watching some of the highlights yesterday. It was someone saying along the lines, talking about the game yesterday. I was like, I normally root for the underdog, so it was a shame Man U lost. But that's like this mentality behind this team now is just, I don't know, it's something special. Like, and it's not really many other clubs in this league that have this. And long may it continue. Like, it's just, it's hard to get used to the idea that we go to Old Trafford, we're expected to win in some ways, then we put out a team that costs about 50 quid to put together, and then we batter them anyway. And it's like, and people walk away and go, yeah, Brighton just really outplayed Man U. So what is this? And what were the only Man City and Liverpool that have beaten Man United? Is it 4 times on the trot? Is that the right stat?
Spot on.
Like, what is this company we're keeping? And now you keep hearing about, Brighton look really like a Champions League team. They should be competing for Champions. It's early, but I'm gonna go with sort of Ange Postecoglou soundbite that he came out with yesterday when he was asked, like, should Spurs fans be tempering their expectations? He's like, no, screw it, just get carried away. Why not? It's been bad in history as a Spurs fan. Enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it. Let's just keep this going. That's how I feel being a Brighton fan right now. Like, just screw it. Let's just hope for everything. Let's hope for the Europa League. Let's hope for a Champions League spot. It doesn't matter. It's incredible.
Yeah, yesterday puts it into perspective, doesn't it? With sort of six changes, just go to Old Trafford, play them off the park for 75 minutes, and go home. Right now, onto the Europa League. It's like, what are we talking about? Like, it's so strange to me. And you bring up Poyet, Houghton. You even throw Sami Hyypiä in there as well, just for the lols. But Jesus, it's amazing. And I think, like Josh said, it's that perfect storm of having the right manager with the right owner at the right time. And we'll just see where he goes. I mean, you got 5 games, 12 points. And I know we had maybe an easier start than most teams, but coming into a really good stretch of games here, and we've started it really high.
Yeah, Stephen in the chat asking that with so many pundits praising De Zerbi, do you think his ethos has modernized football? I'll give my answer to that. Not yet. But I wouldn't be surprised in 5 or 6 years' time, he is being talked about in the same breath as Pep regularly, not just now as a fad.
He will manage Manchester City in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think not yet is the answer, Stephen, for me, but like in the future, yeah, there's just something about him. Like it's this energy he brings, like the arrogance that other fans hate so much, which means he's really good because they really hate that. It's the same that all the great managers do, right? Like even your Fergies who are a bit more like brought back into it. They had that like ego that went with them, and De Zerbi has one like in spades, and like he carries it with him. He made the changes on about 15 minutes, and it took 5 minutes after those changes to be made for Manchester United legend Danny Welbeck to make the most of it. Adingra, first of all, down the right, caused some problems all day yesterday. Thought he played really well. Adam Lallana, unbelievable feint, by the way. Just chef.
Magician.
Yeah. And then it just falls to Danny Welbeck to slot home. Straight in the middle of the goal. Ballon d'Or, Onana, unable to get a hand to it. I do love that. We'll talk about it later, but I do love that his only save came to just ruin our afternoon. But 1-0 up out of nowhere, really, wasn't it? And from then on, it felt like United heads went down big time.
We West Hammed them. It was lovely. But there was a lot of confusion around how we talked a lot about our lineup, but there was a lot of confusion about how Man U would line up. And as you say, like there was comments after the game, De Zerbi basically admitted to say that they played in a way we didn't expect for the first 15 minutes. But they also, like personnel wise, we didn't know if Lisandro Martinez was going to be able to play or whether they'd have to roll out Johnny Evans or Harry Maguire. We didn't really know what they were going to do at like left back. But so you ended up with Spurs reject Sergio Reguilon playing, and we directed a lot of play up that right hand side, and probably heavily by design, right? You don't have Purvis on the left hand side for this game. You're playing Tarek Lamptey out of position. We'll get onto Tarek Lamptey because he was phenomenal. So what do? Well, you go with your, how old's Adingra? 12. Like you at Old Trafford. But funnel everything through Adingra predominantly on the right-hand side. And he was up to it. And he was also really good defensively too. But that move was so simple. It's like, all right, we're completely under pressure here for the first 15, 20 minutes. And then we're just going to just play some simple triangles, run up the pitch. Welbeck's going to hand the ball off. Adingra's going to look up, not just a blind ball into the cross. He's going to look up, find Welbeck. Lallana just pulls off, as you say, just unbelievable little like murking of the defender there, and then bam. And as you say, the Man United tried to get back, but you've got to keep the ball on the pitch, unfortunately. So not to be for them.
Adingra is our most expensive player on the pitch, by the way.
That is crazy, isn't it?
What a joke.
Yeah. Well, it's just that the heads drop because it's such a sucker punch, right? You think, they've had 15 minutes, 4 shots, everything's, turning up gold for them. And they just get drawn into this stinger of a goal. And all of a sudden, the game changes from there. And I think one of the key differences there is typically when we go 1-0 up, we're then so vulnerable for like 3 or 4 minutes where we think, right, they're just going to hit us straight back. But there was never a chance of that yesterday. And we got the ball back and kept it for 3 to 4 minutes and just sort of took any sort of chance of a counter out. It's impressive. Again, we keep talking about the amount of changes that you've made, right? You've changed more than essentially half of that team, and you're still operating at such a high level here where you would go 1-0 up at Old Trafford and then you just keep the ball and just say, right, that's it. It's our game now. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, it is always one of those scary things. You don't know what's going to happen when you've got the goal, especially at Old Trafford, right? Like after that first 20 minutes, like you say, like you expect a response, and we did not allow it whatsoever. I was thinking the exact same thing, you know, like in the crowd. Like, I can't believe that we're just holding the ball here, like at Old Trafford, and just choking them to death. And one thing that was really noticeable from the stands, and I don't know how noticeable it was on the TV because I've not really had a chance to watch it, but I just watched the match of the day highlights, really. But the amount of times their pressing was just horribly disjointed and unorganized. The amount of times people towards the front, Hoyland, Rashford, all of them really on that front line, who just threw their hands up in frustration when 3 of the 4 pressed and the other one just laid off and Lamptey was wide open. And it sounds stupid, but like, I think Danny Murphy said it, like, it was just simple football at the end of the day.
Simple
Like,
it was.
you can't not do that as Manchester United. Like, you've got to be drilled to some extent. And they just were so disjointed yesterday off the ball as much as they were on it. Mad.
They are, and I think what's even funnier about it is they then took off Hoyland at a certain, like later, what was it, 60, 70 minutes? And that reception, you'll know better than us, but we could hear it. They weren't happy about that. Because he looked the most likely to do anything, unless, you know, you just wanted Rashford to dance around a little bit more. And then arguably their best player was Scott McTominay. He had a few like moments, but outside of that, they were just, they don't seem to care. And even though we battered Luton, we battered Wolves, comfortably beat Newcastle, Man United, I haven't seen a side as uninterested and abject probably as when we played West Ham at home last season. Like, as clearly like not bothered by the sort of inevitability of the outcome of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Post-goal, everything just went a bit casual, didn't it? There was not that pressing that we were expecting. There wasn't the worry that we were expecting. And then all of a sudden, out of friggin' nowhere, finally, one successful counter-attack from Marcus Rashford, which is all it takes in this game, especially at a place like Old Trafford with a team like Manchester United. Squares the ball in for Hoyland, who really coolly finishes it, by the way. Very good finish from him. And Old Trafford erupts. Everyone's super happy. And people around me start going, oh, they're VAR in it. We had no idea what they were VAR in it for until you said, Adam, in the chat. Absolute lifesaver. I was like, I had no idea. What are they even checking for? I was like, they're not offside. Like, he played it from the touchline. And then people started coming through whatever stream they've got. I don't know how people have got decent streams in the middle of Old Trafford or any football stadium, by the way. But like,
you barely send a message in a stadium normally.
Yeah, but like, it's absolute magicians have got one going, and they're like, oh, it's out, like on the touchline, like they're going to give it out. So then the celebrations start. United players don't know what's going on. But was definitely out. Do you think? I've seen images of it, and there's really not many angles to me that look like it wasn't over the line.
Yeah, it looks out, doesn't it? And those are always sort of tough, especially, I don't know what technology they use, like whether the goal line technology, but for the whole line. But you know, there's those sort of bits. The cameras tried to do a good job of it, but for me, it looked out. Just by a little bit though. It was very, very close.
It was out, yeah. I'm pretty sure you could see blades of green grass on one of the angles. And I also think it would have been really unfair on Van Hecke, who I thought defended it really, really well. When I watched it live, I was like, how has that ball gone in? That kind of like, how could that be possible? It looked like he showed him to the line. That's because it wasn't possible. So yeah, it was, yeah. But the funny part is we come out for the second half. He does the same bloody thing again and nearly scores too. He runs down right to the byline and there was no one to finish it. But yeah,
there was 3 or 4 in that second half that flashed across the goal line that came to absolutely nothing simply because we were able to get a body in the way or there was just no one there in that second half. They tried it a few times. But that half time came at the right time, really, because they were starting to get onto us a little bit. Came out in the second half, quite 50-50, I thought, for the first kind of 7 or 8 minutes. It was quite, I was expecting another like barrage of attack from United, and it never really came. And then came one of the most disgusting feints I've ever seen from anyone, let alone a Brighton or Albion player. And James said it in the chat. United fans must just love Pascal Gross. 7 of his 28 Premier League goals have came against Manchester United. And this one, the setup at least, was an absolute beauty, wasn't it? And Tariq Lamptey's first assist of the afternoon.
Really good. Yeah. Just good play. I think we can probably talk about Lamptey now, right? But
no,
just,
we've got to wait another 10 minutes.
Solid.
You got to wait to the man of the match part.
Yeah. But for someone that is a natural right back, playing left back and being able to do that role, he was left free a fair amount of times. And although he still looks raw to me, like he's so electric, isn't he? And being able to sort of support Matoma in that role. They sort of really doubled up on Matoma, so it left Lamptey a little bit more free, and he made the most of it. It's a good move, and it's disgusting from Pascal, but it seems to be that the best. Well, he likes playing at Old Trafford, doesn't he? So they sent Martinez for a hot dog, and then it's 2-0. It's simple football, like we said. Just it seems so simple and so easy, but obviously meticulous in design.
Yeah, best centre back in the league, Lisandro Martinez, according to many Man United fans, just absolutely destroyed. But I think we sort of all fell for it. Like it was such an effective fake shot. And he just lets the ball go. Like it was, I don't know. It was just very, very, very well done. But the difference between, it's not like, I know we talked about, but we did the scoreline. We battered Man United, but they had a lot of shots. Like it's not like we had 80% possession or anything silly. Like they had plenty of chances to win this game, but the difference, we were just so clinical, and that was one of the ones that summed it up between Gross and then obviously we're going to get on and talk about the João Pedro goal. Just give a half decent opportunity, and we were really, really clinical, and that's just. It's so weird to say that after watching for so long over the last few years, where you said the opposite. You're like, oh God, we've had 400 chances and we can't finish one. Now, all right, just give us 3, and we're okay with that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no longer XG meme, right? We're just scoring them. Our XG was incredibly good yesterday as well. I think it was like 2 point something. Like we're still creating a lot of very good chances. After that second goal, though, I thought, okay, like they're gonna come at us now, like, and it still never happened. Next 10 minutes became very scrappy, almost football that like you're like almost like passively watching. You know when you're like driving like down like a motorway and you just get like that like driving amnesia. Like it felt like that for like 10 minutes of football. It was just people kicking up all around really. And then the changes were made at 2-0 up at Old Trafford. Ansu Fati and João Pedro were brought on for Adam Lallana and Danny Welbeck. And let me tell you, that Ansu Fati substitution was as loud in the stadium as the 2 goals that came before it. I don't know if you could hear it as loudly on the TV, but the buzz for him before, like as soon as people started to see that he was like, the murmurings went through the crowd of like he's took his like training stuff off, he's getting his shirt on. And then it just like began. It was just this fever pitch of like Fatty's coming on, and like I can't imagine what it must feel like for him to have come from Barcelona. Obviously, we've talked about this ad nauseum now as to like how big of a name this kid is, and to clearly be hearing all of this before he's even so much as kicked a ball. He's being all hype at this point, and he's coming on at 2-0 up at Old Trafford to inject some more energy and terrorism to the front line, along with João Pedro, who is obviously an incredibly talented player in and of himself, and we'll talk about him too. And Manchester United's answer was to bring on Anthony Martial for their £70 million or £100 million striker, and Hannibal Mejbri for £720 Casemiro yesterday. I've never seen a player so unbelievably out of shape, by the way, yesterday as Casemiro. Absolutely shocking, like bad. there are levels to this, isn't there? When you look at the depth on that squad list, and it is baffling to think that Brighton's was by far the superior bench yesterday.
Only changes we made, and you go, oh, we're in deep doo-doo. But you then look at the bench, and you've got Gilmore, Ferguson, Pedro, Milner, Fati. Like, there's some serious firepower on that bench, and those two subs just shows you exactly what we've got. Even bringing Ferguson on with like 5 minutes to go, like, it's silly, isn't it? But I'm glad he's getting a good reception. I think, there's a lot of hype around him, but I guess just try not to listen to the noise. A good chance that he should have put away, but it is what it is. But I'm glad it was a loud reaction. But it was Pedro that made the difference of the two anyway.
I haven't heard such a loud noise for a Fati coming on since Lampard's last Chelsea game.
How long have you had that one in the locker?
It's been 5-10 minutes. But you know what's crazy though? With 30 minutes in, this is the first time we're talking about this guy we signed from Barcelona, and the guy that scored a hat-trick last time we're out. It's just nuts. But no, I mean, he, as you say, he had a gilt-edged chance and he should have made it for Ansu Fati. But we'll probably get on to talk about the João Pedro goal. The runs that were made by Mitoma and Ansu Fati were the reason why João Pedro was standing in about 4 acres of space. And Lamptey just looked up and went, oh, there's no one marking the guy with the number 9 on his back. Here's the ball. And it's just part laziness of Man U and their lack of positioning and where he's wearing number 9, right? I can't even remember anymore the shirt numbers. Part Man United being awful and lazy, and then part the fact that you have to mark one of the most dangerous wingers in the Premier League, Mitoma. You have to mark Ansu Fati, who's just come on fresh legs and is darting forward, and then you leave João Pedro, who is clearly very, 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 very capable of finishing with aplomb, and it was a wonderful finish. And Onana's little jelly hands didn't do much.
He was not good. And I think Pierre in the chat has just summarized the next 2 minutes better than I could have, because it's exactly what I wanted to address, and you've just absolutely nailed it, Pierre. So Pierre in the chat, he said he loved how Pedro's goal sent United's most impatient support packing. So they missed their only goal. So many left after that goal, just poured out. And 2 minutes later, they scored, which then also, as Pierre said, simultaneously made the rest of their support stay for another 20 minutes of just abject misery, where we choked them out of the game and probably could have scored 2 more, which they then had to be subjected to just in case. Outrageous, really. But what a strike from old Hannibal. Absolutely unreal hit, wasn't it? I didn't even know who he was when he came on. I was like, I didn't know they'd signed Fellaini. Like, what was going on? I thought he was still over in somewhere else.
It's a good hit. I think we should have got in front of it, should have done better. But you're 3-0 up. Maybe an inch of complacency comes in, that's natural. But yeah, it's a shame. Again, we can't keep a clean sheet to save our lives, can we? I think. But as long as we're scoring 3 or 4 a game, which we're averaging 3 goals a game at the moment, then letting the odd one in, I don't really mind too much. But it's a good strike. I loved how he just celebrated it like it was the best day of his life as well. It probably was, to be fair to him. Like, it's his first Premier League goal. But yeah, just celebrating like a madman when they've just got a consolation back after being 3-0 down is very funny to me.
I was trying to figure out whether I wanted to do a Carthage general joke or a Hannibal Lecter joke, and I'm just going to bypass both of them. But yeah, it was a good hit, but it didn't matter. So screw him. I didn't know who he was when he came on. It's just like, he looks like Guendouzi, and that was that.
Yeah, you're not wrong. 4 minutes after the goal, where we expected, okay, they've got a goal. Old Trafford's well up for it now. They're going to come after us. We put paid to that very quickly. They did dominate possession for a couple of minutes. They pushed and pushed, and then a couple of substitutions were made that basically ended the game. Dahoud came off for Billy Gilmore, and Tarek Lamptey, who had ran his race, came off for James Milner. And it ended the game for all intents and purposes, because that body in midfield with the energy again just choked them out entirely. Gilmore choked them. The passing array that he showed in that last
He's so
minutes,
good,
just insane. And Milner at left back, we've given him a bad rap, but this is exactly what we wanted Milner to be doing as a Brighton player.
This is his role.
This is exactly what we wanted. He was great yesterday. He ruined their entire game plan with Gilmore together. That physicality just ruined it. And that's exactly what you want to see from James Milner in a Brighton shirt. And it basically just ruined the game for them. About 10-ish minutes later, on the 85th minute, shortly after, there was a counter-attack for United down that left-hand side, or rather our right. And I turned to the missus and I said, Adingra is going to die if we don't take him off. He could not track back for that. He was running his heart out, and he still couldn't run more than 1 mile an hour. He was so tired. And De Zerbi must have seen it literally right in front of him, because within 60 seconds, Fergie was out, stripped, and on for Adingra. And from then on, it could have been 4 or 5.
We had a bunch of chances, didn't we, at the end?
Ferguson had a great chance. Fatty had a superb chance, who I think he probably just took one touch too many, because at that point, the other corner was blocked off to him. I don't mean to cut you off,
but I don't want to miss the ball from Gilmore, because that ball that Gilmore to put Ansu Fati in was, if you go watch it back, if you forget it, because it was just a stunning pass that completely cut out 2 or 3 defenders that gave him that opportunity. So good.
No, it was outrageous.
He's unreal, isn't he? Now he's got his chance, I guess, or now he's sort of cemented a place in his team. I know who's on the bench today, but even when we're talking about a defensive midfielder here that comes on to settle a game, and we're still talking about how good he is on this podcast.
He's a Norwich reject.
Yeah.
And he's been probably one of our 2-3 best players this year. He's been immense, absolutely immense.
Yeah, and there's always a talking point with him just about how good he is. Normally, I think typically, you don't want to hear from your centre backs or your defensive mids. If we don't talk about them, it means they've probably done a good job, right? But this guy just is going above and beyond at the moment, and that's why I was so surprised that he didn't start today. But I think the Gilmore, and I echo the Milner thing completely. That's exactly what we want him to do. I don't personally want to see him start. I want to see him come on with 15 minutes to go and just shore the game up. But yeah, Gilmore, fantastic. And then you bring on someone that scored a hat-trick 2 weeks ago for the last 5 minutes. It's dangerous, isn't it?
I mean, it's just stupid, isn't it, really? And he got arrested as well, didn't he? Because he pulled out from the Ireland squad. I guess he's had just a knock all the way through preseason, and he just thought it was prudent to not even play for them, which was good news for us. So he came on and just terrorized them for 8 minutes. Full time comes up, loads of boos, very sad Old Trafford. And I will say, I've been to a lot of football in my life prior to moving over to the US, and now obviously I've been starting to go again since. And I don't think I've ever encountered a group of fans more openly, just grossly homophobic as United fans yesterday. There was several slurs thrown my way, kids' ways, just simply for having Brighton shirts on as they walked past. There was dads doing it, people our age doing it, kids doing it. Full time after full time at the train station at Manchester Piccadilly, it was even worse. It was bad. It was honestly really poor. And I haven't encountered that level in a long time. I'll tell you when I encountered that level most recent, there was Derby away a couple 10 odd years ago, where it was really bad. But that was probably the worst homophobic stuff I've ever seen. And the police inevitably did absolutely nothing, despite them being quite loud next to cops. It was just worth bringing up, I think, because it is 2023 and we're supposed to all be a slightly bit more grown up these days than we were 20 years ago. But it was absolutely appalling yesterday, and they should genuinely just be ashamed.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of football fans that are Neanderthals, and I guess there were a lot of them there. Yeah, it's just It's archaic, isn't it? But I tell you what, to put a positive spin on it for reprehensible behavior, I think we're going to see an increase in it because we're now not just like pushovers. They're angry. They're angry. So they'll pull out whatever they've got in the bottom of the drawer to like throw out some insults. And that's the easiest one, isn't it? It's the lowest IQ one they've got. But it's because they got embarrassed. Yeah.
It's just a low hanging fruit, isn't it? From, I guess it's just very primitive behavior. But yeah, you're right. We're not this nice club anymore, right? We're going to go to Old Trafford and we're going to make you look stupid, and you're going to show your true colors. And obviously, it's reprehensible, and it's, you know, we should condemn it at every avenue, absolutely. But yeah, it doesn't justify it at all. But it's just small brains choosing the low hanging fruit.
Yeah, and I said that to the missus too, because we were talking about it at the train station, and I said to her like the same thing. I was like, the only reason this is happening is because we dicked them. You wouldn't be here; they wouldn't be saying all these things if we had lost. They'd be very quiet or just happy in general. But they're just a pathetic team and a pathetic fan base, so they're upset. So it was just really sad to see, really. But the result was not. So fuck them. Let's talk about player performances in specific. Who do you want to start with of basically the entire team that you want to shout out as some superb performances yesterday that you guys had stand out to you?
Well, this is infringing on man of the match discussion, isn't it? Heavily. Wow.
Do we want to start with man of the match then, and then give shout outs to the other players that deserve it?
Yeah, but can I go last?
Oh, absolutely. Of course
Tremendous.
You can, Adam. Anything you need.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go first then. So I am going to go with Pascal Gross as my man of the match, because the guy has just scored his 7th league goal against Manchester United. He is just a disgusting machine of a man. He has been widely praised by German fans after his first international call-up. Loved him. They absolutely loved him. Wanted to know why he hasn't been playing in their team for the last 10 years. Obviously has found a home here in Brighton. You talk about being proud of playing for the club. So random to see him passionately kissing the badge after the second goal. He was just absolutely loving life. Came straight to the fans, knew what he wanted to do. He was just over the moon with it. He had 100 passes yesterday with a 98% pass accuracy rate in the middle of the park that we've just talked about being incredibly clogged up, and a goal. Unbelievable.
What's that percentage pass accuracy to the mathematicians in the chat?
It's just outrageous. I just thought he was absolutely superb yesterday. And he was in what is undoubtedly probably our most lightweight midfield duo with him and Dahoud. And he was superb. So it probably may be a low-hanging fruit man of the match. But the stats on this guy at the age he is and just everything, really, he's just insane. He's just insane. It's an absolute pleasure to watch him every week at this point. He's just so good. So he was my man of the match. Craig, you are inevitably next, as Adam is definitely.
Yeah, taking requests for order now. Yeah. I am going to give mine to Tariq Lamptey, I think. I know he ran absolutely ragged. You're talking about setting a high bar with a natural right back playing left back to cover for arguably one of our best players in Estepinian, and asking him to do a job at Old Trafford. And then not only does all the defensive duties he needs to, or there wasn't that many, but done what he was asked of him and got 2 assists as well, making himself completely available. I thought he worked really well with Matoma as well, which is also really good. You're now starting thinking, oh, well, maybe he's our left back cover then. So, for that opinion just to change over 90 minutes at Old Trafford is incredible. So worked his socks off, 2 assists, didn't look out of place at all, even though he actually was. I just thought it was a stand-up play and a showing from Tariq Lamptey.
Yeah, I'm plus one in Pascal Gross. But there were some fantastic performances, but his was a step above that. The pass accuracy that you quoted, that like 98%, the fact that it wasn't just short passes, he was throwing long balls around as well, and the goal that was just unbelievable, and the fact that he's just, as you say, just come off his first Germany caps earlier on in the week, smashing Man United as usual, passionate about the club, and again, like, not to throw us under the bus more, but this was the guy that I think collectively the fan base had big question marks about writing off of the club 2 years ago. He looked abject for large periods of time under Graham Potter, really, really bad. And now he's the guy. He is the guy. So I completely agree. But, shout out to, I thought Danny Welbeck was obviously very, very good yesterday for all of the, abuse that Danny Welbeck gets, and this demand that we want to see Evan Ferguson play that role and lead the line. I thought he was fantastic. But yeah, I agree with both of what you guys chose.
I thought you were going to go way off piste with the last request.
No, I just want to be. I kind of want to be lazy, and I sort of agree. I just wondered whether one of you guys would pick someone random. But no, I agree with what you said. It was, but I tell you what, the other one that we talk about and we need to eat and crow about is Van Hecker's just still like he's now. I don't want to see anyone else next to Lewis Dunk.
That right-hand side in general, right? Like just both of them, Van Hecker and Veltman together yesterday.
Yeah.
Really good. I thought they were really
just works,
good.
Doesn't it? It just works. I think that you're crying out for Veltman on that right back position, even though it's not his, it's not his first choice, but it's just so solid. Apart from Estepinian at left back, that's your back four, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Poor Igor.
I know. I tell you, I will also give props to João Pedro. Obviously, he scored a great goal. But his defensive work yesterday was to be noted because De Zerbi has stated quite clearly that his defensive work was piss poor and he needed to work on it. But I thought I think the stats back it up too. He made a couple of tackles at the end of the game, tracked back, did a lot of work to just harry them on that right-hand side. I thought he was really good yesterday defensively, and I think it helped massively when you look at players like Marcus Rashford that basically just goal hanged for the entire 90 minutes at Old Trafford. I thought that was quite a really good performance from him to come on as a sub and work that hard.
Yeah, he was. I know we talk about Ansu Fati's chance as well, where he probably should have scored it, but his movement and his range of passing that he showed, you could just when you watch someone, you're just like, oh, he's got quality about him. I'm so excited to see more of him. I know it's stating the bloody obvious because of course we are, but like it's just such a privilege to have the players that we now have, that because someone said it was our best 11. We talked about our best back four. I think we kind of all agreed there. But that front line, when Enciso's healthy, it's just spoiled for choice. It really is. Now we've seen Adingra be able to play really, really well on that right wing side. Solly not in the squad because he picked up a knock, but you can't really doubt Solly at this point either. The hat-trick hero, Danny Welbeck scoring against his former club. You've got Matoma, you've got Ansu Fati, you've got Enciso when he's back. The Buonanote's sunning himself somewhere. I don't even know where he is. Just obscene.
That's a good point. Where is he? It's a really good point.
Well,
maybe he should have gone out on loan, but hindsight's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Well, I think he might be the 21st player, or however many there are on a match day squad at the moment.
You think? I mean, I don't know if you heard the whole sort of Ansu Fati thing and how that came about. It's awfully quick. I think maybe he's stolen Buonanote's spot, right? I kind of put them probably maybe in the same thing, and that's why. But yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah. All right, let's do the ad read for Mr. Green King Sport. So for the 23-24 season, Together BHA is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. Green King sports venues are showing every televised Brighton fixture over the course of the season. Hopefully, we'll be getting a lot of them, right, with the European campaign. So instead of turning to the internet for a dodgy stream, get your mates together and get down to your local Green King pub and get closer to the action. Green King Sport have just recently launched the Green King Sport Instagram page, which is going to be the home to fan content, including ours, deals and competitions throughout the season. So if you could drop them a follow on Instagram, and you won't just be the first to know about all this, you'll be helping us out as a podcast as well. Because if you do that, we get fun stuff. We can then do stuff with you guys. So give them a follow on Instagram if you use it, and we'll be able to crack on together. Let's talk about Thursday. AEK Athens, who are due to play tonight. Not an easy run for them. They haven't played in 2 weeks, obviously, with the international break. But they play tonight against Olympiacos, no less. And then nicely roll on straight away to play us on the Thursday. What are we hoping here for AEK Athens? Does anybody, please speak now, know anything about AEK Athens and what they offer as a football team towards Thursday? Because I'll be the first to admit that I have not done much homework on this team whatsoever.
They're based in Athens and they play in yellow and black. Yeah,
superb.
Wrapped up.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, right?
There you go.
All right, excellent. So
I know they're 2 games into the season, right? So like they played a lot of Champions League playoffs and inevitably got knocked down into the Europa League. But they are only 2 games in. They have got a tough game today. I'm looking at their player list. A couple of them ring a bell, but it's not worth talking about, I don't think. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I think the expectation will be high for us though. Like irrespective of how good or how sort of indifferent they are or could be, the onus really is on us getting a result here. And I don't think that expectation is any less than winning.
I mean, arguably, right? Like this is supposed to be our easiest game of the campaign. How long the campaign goes on for, this is supposed to be our easiest one. So I think you're right. Like expectation will be there. Like for me, I will be like, I'll be expecting a result on Thursday. Like I've never watched them play in my entire life, but like you're the 3rd best team in Greece, as James said in the chat. Like, and we're on a hell of a run, and we're at home in our first ever Europa League campaign or a European football game in our history. Like I am expecting a result on Thursday. Do you two feel the same way?
I mean, we should comfortably beat them. With all our peripheral knowledge of this club and how they play. I think I did read some anecdotal Reddit comment about how they actually don't play massively dissimilar style of play to how we do, but just with worse players and less effectively. So we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked though I think if you're them, you see what Brighton are doing at the moment, you probably come to an away game and you come out and you try and do what West Ham did and you use that as the blueprint. That's the only concern. But if we get the atmosphere is going to be nuts. Like if we can't score at home against this team, I don't know, on a Thursday night, it's got to be a battering, hasn't it?
Still feels a bit weird, doesn't it? Still feels a bit surreal for me that we're going to be playing on a Thursday night and I'm going to have to tune into Paramount Plus over here to watch Brighton play. But yeah, I think we should, expectation is that we get 3 points on the board, right? As Josh said, they were pot 4, so typically home game against the lowest seed in the group. You kind of have to think we need to win here in order to set ourselves up. But I am worried about the whole park the bus type deal and being able to break a team down. I'm just hoping, averaging 3 goals a game at the moment is absolutely insane. And if we get at least a couple of goals, I'd be confident that we're going to take 3 points away.
James in the chat noted that they actually might be one of the toughest teams to play if they set up a 10-man phalanx.
It's a decent amount of sort of before Christ battle references on the podcast, more than I anticipated.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? It's been a weird week. But yeah, I mean the starting 11 is going to be incredibly interesting, isn't it? Who do you expect? I mean, some of those players were shattered out there yesterday at the end of the game, and for good reason. Like, they were ran into the ground because United countered very well for a lot of that game. They had to, even if they didn't do anything with it, like, there was a lot of running that those players had to do. Out of that group, I'm assuming we'll see Estepinian back, right? I'm assuming he'll probably come back in. I would probably expect João Pedro to get a start. Do you think Ansu Fati also gets in? Because De Zerbi's gonna want to mix the old heads with the young, right? Like, what are you expecting from this starting 11 on Thursday night?
I think the big boys are coming in, aren't they? They've got, but this is the one where you make a point. But if you're going to start Ansu Fati in a comfortable set of surroundings where he's played at that top tier level, and you want to bring someone in that knows how to play under the lights, this is the time, right? This is the game you start him. I could see him playing. If Ferguson's okay, lob him up there as well. And then I think we'll see all change in that midfield area. I wonder whether you give Pascal Gross a rest. A lot of game time for that man, and he's not young. So I'm wondering whether you see Billy Gilmore and then do you bring in the wise old shoulders of James Milner to play in his actual normal position there? Maybe. Lallana just played a decent amount of game time this weekend. Do you give him a rest? Because I know they've not won a game yet, but Bournemouth looked like a decent outfit under that new manager they've got. And you want 3 points against Bournemouth at home at the weekend. So I wonder whether you rest your Tariq Lampteys, you rest your Pascal Gross, you switch your keepers around. Maybe you give Adam Webster a go because you don't want to run Van Hecker into the ground either. We are going to have to talk about rotation is going to be a theme throughout the whole season. So I think I've just listed every player in the squad.
I think you save Ferguson for Bournemouth. I think maybe the wise head of Welbeck up top with maybe Fati behind, and Matoma and March playing. Like, that's probably my front four.
So no João Pedro for you?
I don't think so.
Sport for choice.
Do you go with that top two? Like, do you just go with that top two of Pedro and Fati that we left off at Old Trafford with? It was so effective.
I think for me, Welbeck needs to be there. It's either Welbeck or Ferguson. I'm not sure if I'm putting Pedro in the same bucket as those two. When it comes to what they need to do and what they bring. I do think, Gilmore and Dahoud in the middle sounds nice, right? I think you keep Milner to this, shore up the game with 20 minutes to go. There's a lot to talk about. I think none of us are probably going to get it right, but it's important to speculate and sort of understand, because you've got a game 3 days later. That is a must win.
How many people do you think would have predicted the Man U lineup correctly if you polled every Brighton fan? Zero,
absolutely zero.
What do you think?
Here's your $1 million question. At what point and at what game do you rest Mr. England now, Lewis Dunk? We're talking about resting Van Hecker to not drive him into the ground. This is a lad that's just had a full international break at England. He played a full game as well. Like, we talk about Estepinian being bionic. Lewis Dunk has already played a lot of football. He's played the same amount of football as Pascal Gross did. At what point do we talk about dropping him for a rest? Because you would think this is a great game for Igor to step in, who has played European football at the highest level. But I think you would have to prize the Europa League from Lewis Dunk's cold, dead hands before he doesn't start on Thursday. I think has
to start the first one, right?
So, like Bournemouth? Like, do you think he rests at Bournemouth, or do you think he just hopes he can keep going and
run him into the ground? When do
we
play Man U at home? Easiest game of the season. It's the rest of them.
Well, he definitely doesn't play in the Carabao, right? Like, that's an obvious given.
When is that?
Wednesday of end of this month, I think, right? next
It's
month.
not officially listed on the fixture list I'm looking at yet.
But Igor's that left centre back, isn't he? That I think once he's had time to bed in and understand how we play and how we do things, I think he's going to be really good. He's definitely the dunk rotation, right? At left centre back.
The 27th, by the way, is next Wednesday. We play Chelsea.
Yeah, you put out a second string there and still win, right?
Honestly, probably.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but have you looked at what happens in November? Because not that long away. For those calendar fans. So we've got Everton away, Ajax away, Sheffield United at home, Forest away, Athens away, and then you go into December on the 2nd, Chelsea away. A lot of travel in November, a lot. There's the rotation's going to be mental. It really is. We have to rest everyone.
But yesterday is a good start, right?
Yeah,
so we can do it. Like, and that's fine. Like, our predictions will be up the wazoo, but
they always are.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, they're not worth the microphones they're spoken into, are they? Really?
Don't feel bad for Buonanotte, but this right because he'll be in the starting 11 and he'll probably start bloody Athens. We don't know.
Well, I mean, at a minimum, right? Like, he's definitely going to get 90 minutes, if not 75 at Chelsea. Like, no doubt about it. Like, he is absolutely playing against Chelsea. Like, no doubt. If he's not already played beforehand, he's getting minutes there. Yeah. Surely.
Yeah. But you probably try Belieber then as well, if you haven't already.
Yep.
Because didn't Deserby say something earlier this week about how, like, midfielders, or someone said, would take a little bit more time to get into the system.
He said it's his hardest role. He said it's the hardest role to get acclimated to, so he wouldn't be starting for a while, which I think we all said, didn't we? Plus, like, he's so young. I think, like, the double whammy of, like you say, I think we can probably see him maybe play 45 minutes against Chelsea, which might end up looking too soon for him. I wouldn't be surprised if we're covering after Villa that weekend and saying Belieber looked shit against Chelsea. And in 2 months' time, he'll be an absolute world beater, because I think that's just the way it seems to look like in De Zerbi's midfield.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of games coming up, man. Like, it's going to be an interesting set of squad starting 11. So I think, and I don't know if you had anything else to add, but like towards, to wrap this up, like, I think, Adam, you said it best. At this point, whatever 11 throws out there, like, you just got to believe it's going to win, because he just keeps putting them out there and they just keep winning.
Yeah, greater than the sum of the parts and all that. It's just get in the De Zerbi system. It doesn't matter as long as you've got legs, and you can run a bit, and you actually fight for the badge and the shirt. It doesn't really matter at this point, right? And we're seeing that. We saw it yesterday.
Absolutely mental.
What a time.
All right. So we will be back, I think, Thursday night full time for the Athens game. I will be there, so I will try and call in as well. Not sure if Robin's going as well, but either way, we'll have at least 2 or 3 of us on here for the Thursday night. And then obviously we'll be back Bournemouth as well to cover that. There's a lot. That's why we added another person to the pod, right? You're going to see the rotation going on here as well. But we'll be back Thursday post Athens, hopefully in just as good a mood as today. We have an unbelievable start to the campaign, really, haven't we? We've took 12 points out of a possible 15. We have scored more goals than anybody in the Premier League so far, which is just insane to say. And I think we're second to just about every positive offensive stat in the league, if not first, to Manchester City, which is not terrible company to keep, is it really?
No, it's that outside of today, and I don't want to do any spoilers, but in general, it's like coming second to Verstappen. That's what you want at the moment. You just want that second place trophy, and we're doing it, which is wild.
Yeah. You love to see it. All right, fellas, we will be back midweek for our first Europa League podcast. And we will, have a good start to your week.
Cheers all.
Cheers.